Hi, Julie Torrance here. We're going to be working in my Amazon's Basic watercolor paper. This is 30 sheets. It is 11 by 14. I cut it in half, 140 pound, 300 GMS. The Amazon Basic, you get 30 sheets for less than $15. Good big paper, and I believe it's cellulose. If it was cotton, I think they'd brag about it, and by having it written somewhere, but it doesn't. But it's good paper. So why are we here? The question came up, how do I make evergreens? Now, I'm glad the question was not, how do you make good evergreens? Because I can show you how I make evergreens, but good evergreens, I'm not sure. Let's just take a look at my evergreens. So what I'm doing here is I'm just wetting the top. I did tack my paper down to a piece of cardboard just so that it kind of helps not be quite so wanting to curl. And what I thought I would do is I'm starting up here, and I was going to make an evergreen with a darker background and an evergreen with a lighter background, because I do make them different. So I'm just washing in, and when you're doing a background, top is always darker, bottom is always lighter. So I'm just going to darken this up with, and I started out with phthalo blue, and I'm just going to use this shadow violet up at the top, make it a little bit darker. And this could be a night sky. It could be just a cloudy sky. It's whatever you decide. I'm going to just grab some of this gouache. This is white gouache, which gouache is watercolor, but it's not transparent. And I'm just going to, these could be stars, but they're gonna like spread out like you're seeing. So it can look like a misty night or a misty snowy night. It's whatever you want. I'm just gonna grab some of my paper towel here and just blot the wet. Okay, so we were working up here. Now I'm gonna push this up so you should be able to see down here okay. I'll let this dry, and I'm gonna show you down here how I work on evergreen trees that are in a light background. So I'm going to stick with the round brush, but I'm going to go just a little bit smaller. And I have tried to do evergreens with square brushes. I have tried with fan brushes. I just did not have great success. Now, I don't consider myself, I'm trying to find a round brush that I really like. I really don't consider myself an expert at all on making evergreen trees. So here, I've got two here, and I think that the number 5 will be just fine. If not, I've got others, but I think this number 5, this one is a number 8. I'm going to start with the 5. We're going to continue on with the number 8, and if I need to. All right. So if this is a light colored background for an evergreen, I do them a little different than if it's dark. So I'm going to grab some of this. I'm going light. I'm going to start light. So I'm going to grab this. I can't even say what this is. It's like apatite. I'm not sure, but it's a lighter green. You can see here, it's kind of like a, an olivey green, but I'm really watering it down because I want it to be light. So I like to start my evergreens with a straight line, or as straight as I can draw, because evergreens don't always have super straight trunks. If you've ever bought a live Christmas tree, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to start with this. And like I said, I'm going light. Now, the other thing that I do when I'm doing evergreens, I'm going to make this just a little bit taller. All of them, just a little bit taller. I start with branches, or what do they call them? Like boughs. I start with them far apart because I tend to clump them up too much. So again, this is just my way. So I'm going to put some in. There's my top. And I just make dots. Or if I'm, working larger, I kind of work them this way. And I'm only going side to side with the boughs getting like longer. So we get that kind of triangle shape that we're all familiar with. And the boughs are getting wider. See, this one is wider than that one. And now that I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and make one coming at me. Because there's going to be some coming at us all the way through. Now I'm going to go ahead and start with this one. And make another one coming at me. Kinda. I mean, I'm just telling you what's going through my head as I do this. So now I'm just going to do the same on this one. And like anything, no two are the same. Now, I don't know if you can see, but this is a granulating color, and it's breaking out into some browns, which for evergreens is just really cool. This tree is a little bit further back, so it's got a little bit smaller. Look in my pan at that color where you can see like brown. That was a clean little space that I put that color in. But this is how some of these granulating colors from Daniel Smith are, and I just love it. Especially when you're doing nature or even portraits, animal pictures. I like that it's adding color in there for me that I didn't add, or I didn't think I did, but I like that. Now, maybe some of this is a little wider than it should be, or whatever. I mean, that's just my human hands, I'm going to get a little bit more color. And then water. Okay. I think I've got an awful lot of water. I'm just going to dry the ferrule, the metal part of my brush off. And yes, these look awfully sparse and awfully far apart, but that's on purpose. So I hope this is looking like an evergreen to you. Like I said, this is how I make them. I am not a watercolor specialist. All right, this tree isn't shiny anymore, so it's dry enough. This one is still shiny. This one is still shiny. I'm going to rinse my brush. Now, I want this same color in it, but I've got some green, and I think that's pretty much this Cascade green here. I'm just going to take a little bit of that. And it's a darker shade. Let me add it all in here. Just move this over. It's looking a little bit hazy to me. I may have gotten some white gouache in there. I'm going to add a little more Cascade green. All right. It may not be as transparent, but I'm really not worried about that. And I'm going in for round number 2. And I can just tell I've got an awful lot of paint on my brush. I hate to dab it here because then I'm wasting paint. Okay, I am going to add a little to the top. And now I'm going to go in between and, touching sometimes, sure. Some people I've seen start with yellow. I'm going on top a little too. And when I do that, because I've seen that technique, it looks to me like I hung a light bulb in a tree. I can't make it work, but the ones that I've seen that do it, oh, they're beautiful. So I'm going top and bottom over this light part. And one more, 2 more rows. I just feel like the different colors can just kind of give it, like, some is in the front, some is in the back type of a thing. Okay, good. And I'm going to work that all the way across. I'm getting that Cascade green. I'm going to mix it up with some of that Apatite, which I know I'm saying that wrong, but I don't know how to say it. Is it this one? Yeah. And then I'm going to... And will this be the same for this tree as the one I made before? I don't know. I think it needs a little more of this. Now, that was Cascade. Now I'm going to add some water because I still want to go fairly light. If it's too light, it's all right. If it's too dark, it is what it is. I do want to get the water off of the metal part of my brush. Start up here. I wouldn't say it's necessarily darker this time, but it's definitely a different color, and that's fine. This could be a different variety of an evergreen, and, that's cool. That's fine. Sometimes I go on top, sometimes I go on underneath what I already put. Now I'm just going to add some more of that Cascade green to this mix and do the last tree. Little water. Watercolor likes water. Okay, last one. It's awfully wet. I just don't want a big bubble to fall. A little more paint. Just dotting and dotting and dotting. A little more. I hope you had a good holiday. I did, but I came out of it with a cold again. I've had more colds this year, but it's the way it goes sometimes. This one is looking more sparse, and I know that this color is not the same. I'm going to add some in. Kind of my mid-tone for this tree. And don't be afraid to have some white showing. There. Okay. I'm going to see what this does to this because, yeah, this looks darker to me. I'm going to add, because I was just going to add a darker shade. All right, this one needs the darkest. So I'm heading into the Cascade Green using the least amount of water that I've used. And I'm just going to add the darkest to this one. That doesn't even look darker. I'm going to go ahead and add a touch of phthalo blue, which is that sky color over there. And that's going to darken it up. All right, let's see what we get. Can you see my, yeah, can you? Okay, here we go. My furnace just kicked on if you're hearing a noise. And there, I've got 3 evergreens. This one, I'm going to add a little bit of this darker color. Just here and there towards the middle. Oh, I like that. I'm going to do some in here too. Not very much. Okay, so there's 3 evergreens. You'll have to let me know in the comments what you think. All right, I think that this up here is dry enough that I can show you just a little bit of the difference of what I would do. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some snow. I'm just using that same color that I used. I'm holding the very back of the brush. That's why it's kind of skipping around. And now I'm going to hit this with just plain water. So that we're working on something. There's always going to be a shadow or some kind of a thing going on. Good. All right. I'm going to grab some of my gouache. And yes, you need more gouache than you do watercolor when you're doing this. And I'm going to, now this, some will be kind of absorbing in and some won't. It's just going to depend, but it's going to give a different look. Get a little more. Okay. Rinse that out. Okay. Ding, ding, ding. So I'm not going to do that lighter color. I'm going to just go darker, and I'm going to go kind of almost all dark, but let whatever shines through, and then we just kind of can correct from there. But I don't start with that super light color. So I'm starting with what was sort of our medium color before, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make some trunks. And I'm going to start with the tapping. a little longer from side to side as I go down. And this that I'm doing now, that's representing a branch that would be coming right at us. At least that's what's in my mind. And there's one. So this is Cascade and that Appetite color that I really don't know how to say. This one. I'm not mixing it with the blue up top. Rinsing out my brush. And I can even move some of this over here so I can water it down more. There we go. Okay. Number 2. I had a feeling I was awfully wet, but let's just work with it. Maybe I'll like it better. If you cut off a bough or a branch from a evergreen tree, what was close to the trunk is skinny, and what as you get away from this trunk, it gets wider. So that's what I'm trying to do with all this that I'm doing here. Okay, there's our middle color. Nothing like that color, but when I'm doing evergreens, I like that. I sincerely do. It's not like, well, this isn't what I want, but I'm just going to pretend. No, evergreens are all kinds of colors. Plus, it does depend on what the shadows and light around them is doing. Honestly, when I'm doing these kinds of trees, no two are alike, ever. Even when I was making like 20 Christmas cards and doing it in like a assembly line kind of a style, yeah, no two alike. But that's the beauty of it. If you want them all mechanically looking alike, you know what I always say, go to Hallmark. All right, now I'm going to start with a darker color. I got some water up in the snow. Okay, so I'm doing this darker color, darkest color. And it's not photo real. This is not something that someone's going to look at and say, oh, is it a photograph? No. Good. I'm liking it. See, now I can see a difference between my light ones and my dark ones. So I hope that's coming through to you, because there is a difference. All right, so I'm adding some of this medium color to the darkest color. I'm going to touch this phthalo blue that I've got. What, I don't even know what's all in there. Maybe some black, but that's all right. All right, I'm just drying the metal part. This one looks a little sparse. I'm just gonna take, and with my wet brush, I'm touching some of the areas that I can see the white paper, and I'm just gonna let whatever's there bleed in. That's all I'm doing. This plain water and letting the colors that I've already put down bleed in and share. Like that. This one looks very one-dimensional to me. I want some color that's more definitely green. Let's see. I'm looking. This one. Okay, this is Tanzanite green. And put it up here. I don't think I'm going to need a whole lot. Okay. And I'm gonna add, see what I get. I like it. Yep. That's doing nice for me. This one, I'm going to add really just a little bit. Okay. So we've got our 3 in the dark. We've got our 3 in the daylight. Or heavy sky or something like that. Okay. Now, for our snow, I'm wetting my gouache, rinsing out this brush. I'm grabbing my toothbrush. I keep my toothbrush in my acrylic, but I always make sure I do not have leftover acrylic in it. And I would never, if I was doing wet acrylic at the time, I would not put this toothbrush in watercolor. I mean, it just, you cannot mix watercolor with acrylic. Here we go. And I'm putting it right down over the trees, because if it was snowing, it would be snowing in front of those trees. Okay, that looks nice to me. Perfect. I almost stuck it in my coffee. Would not be the first time. Okay, now I'm just going to show you another step that nobody asked for, but I'm just going to do it. I'm going to add snow to these. I guess my thinking is I only make, I don't know why, but I only make evergreens that are in like darkness when it's winter. So I'm just dabbing this white gouache. Many of your paint sets have white, but sometimes it's what I call a mixing white, and so it's not opaque. And so you won't get coverage. You'll just get, it's designed to make pastels for you to mix. But I'm just adding this white. Like that. It just started to snow. So again, and the trees didn't have any white on them before. The sun had cleared off the snow, but now it's just starting to cling to the trees again. I just keep dabbing into the white. Yep. I'm going to touch the water. The wash will absorb up, especially if your paint is still wet, some of the color underneath it, which is fine because the snow, if it wasn't a heavy layer, would do the exact same thing. So I don't worry about it, but sometimes I do need to just go back and add a little more just to get the white to stand out. And that doesn't bother me. Watercolor is usually a slow process. I didn't have to do a lot of drying time with this one, but sometimes you do. Good news is though, once the paint isn't shiny anymore, like puddly shiny, you can hit it with the heat gun and speed up the process. And you don't have the drying problems that you think about when you're doing it with acrylic. All right. And I'm sorry I'm sniffly. I honestly am got a cold. All right, let's do some more. The closer you are to your picture, the larger the dots will be. And there we go. All right. So to answer the question, how do I make evergreens? This is how I make evergreens. Should we pull the tape off? Sure. Let's do a tape reveal. Oh, I got some water from my rinsing. That's okay. There. This tape does pick up the paper a little bit, and I don't blame the tape. It's probably the paper is just not quite as hardy, but for a project like this, that's okay. If I was going to be considering framing this or putting it up on Etsy, I would be taking my heat gun, and that would ensure that it doesn't tear the paper by just heating the tape up a little bit. But for this project, we're fine. Sorry for my arm. Oh boy, that one really tore. Okay. So we've got evergreens that are in the night or dark background, evergreens that are in a white background. I mean, you could add flowers, you could do all kinds of things. I hope you found this helpful. Please consider hitting the like, subscribe if you like my content, and you can get notified when I put something else out there. And in the meantime, thanks for watching. I'll see you in another video.